boys. Hello, mate. Happy New Year, Horace. I couldn't resist it. I've just inhaled an entire helium balloon because I'm such a child. I think it's bloody hilarious.
You absolute legend. That is hilarious. I assume I'm not going at 100 mile an hour and it's just you.
Not at the moment. I better let it wear off, otherwise no one will be able to understand me.
It's very good. It's very good. Are you going to stay like that for the whole episode?
I might do.
I bloody hope not.
Welcome to Backstage Pass, the podcast which pulls back the curtain on the music industry with banter, comedy, and essentially two blokes having a laugh. With myself, James Maverick, and my good friend, Rob Newson, otherwise known as Roger the Horace. So, Roger the Horace, here we are. It's 2025. We're recording this, when is it? January the 8th we're recording this, so hopefully this will come out at some point in January. I've put my helium balloon down now, but I couldn't resist it. I haven't used one of those for years. They're bloody hilarious.
Yeah. No, it was very good, yeah. Very, very good. And I didn't expect that, if anyone thought that I did. No, I didn't.
I'm looking at Horace through the webcam, and in 2025, nothing has changed, and he's still holding into the 7-Up. So hopefully we'll have a few thousand million burps to edit out on this in this new season.
I'll do my best. That's all I can say. Now, I've fully recovered from, nearly December's ordeal.
Indeed. Before we move into that, let's just commemorate the fact to all the listeners that this is episode 1 of season 2 of Backstage Pass, mate. We've made it into season 2. Who would have thunk it?
Who would have thunk it, indeed. We've made it to season 2. We haven't fallen out. We don't hate everybody in the world. And we've got here, yeah. So,
despite the fact I have a sieve for broadband, my boiler blew up, my ceiling nearly caved in, life, whatever, your schedule, everything. We still made it, mate. And my studio calendar, and we still made it.
Yeah, I don't mean to laugh, but that is funny. I'm sorry. There's nothing funnier than a boiler blowing up. Now I've said it, I bet mine goes this week. It's on its last legs now. I can hear it out there. It's wheezing like an asthmatic playing a bloody harmonica.
Well, it is mullered, your boiler. It's been mullered for ages, isn't it?
It has. And then we had a quote for a new one, and then, let's just say that I'm getting the most out of it.
The quote came from your letterbox, and then you went, "Got any money? Got any money?" To Kat, didn't you? To your wife. "Got any money? We got to get the boiler fixed. You got any money?"
Well, obviously, the Christmas period has been sort of pretty rancid in this house, I have to say.
Oh, mate, you were sick, weren't you? I've just got to say to listeners, we were going to do a special Christmas episode, weren't we, this year? But someone who's sitting looking at me through the webcam went off and got Christmas AIDS, so we couldn't do one, could we?
I did, in fact, catch festive AIDS. You're quite right. AIDS of the face, or whatever people call it these days.
You got the flu, didn't you, poor sod?
My lovely wife got the flu to start with, which was
bless her,
about 4 weeks before Christmas, and she had it for a week. And I was walking about like I was bulletproof, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to get that. And then, I'm sorry, pardon. I'm not going to get that, but of course I did. A week after she got rid of it, I got it. I was off for 4 days, and I really had it. It was like the same sort of flu that I had when I had whatever people believe COVID for the first time. It was horrible. And then she got it again the week after I got it. So I still had the end of it, and she caught it again. So she's pretty much been sick since about 2 weeks before Christmas, up to Christmas, including Christmas, all over Christmas, and she's not quite right now. So she's really suffering.
Bless her. So she got the flu, passed it to you, and then you gave it back to her again?
Yes.
How did you manage that? Only Roger the Horace could manage that.
That's a skill set that only certain individuals have, isn't it? Obviously. But I did that. Obviously not on purpose, but she got really sick. So we literally painted a great big red AIDS-ridden cross on the front door and barricaded the house closed. And the only time we left the house over Christmas was to go for a Christmas dinner, which we had booked at a restaurant nearby where we were, and we probably both shouldn't have gone, but it was so expensive that, as you know, there's no way I'm going to lose that money.
10 pence Horace in the house.
10 pence Horace. It was a bit more than 10 pence, I'll tell you that much. We're talking like 3-figure sums, so it was an expensive Christmas dinner.
Yeah, fair play.
Tip for the listeners: if you ever decide to go for a Christmas dinner out, go on Boxing Day, because it's nowhere near what it costs to go on Christmas Day.
Please disperse. There is nothing to see here. Be advised that Roger the Horace is a 10 pence lemon. Well, I'm sorry you and your missus were crook for Christmas, Rob. But you know, Christmas is one of those things, isn't it? You either love it or you hate it. Take it or leave it, mate. But that brings us on to our next segment, because we thought it would be quite a laugh, considering that your Christmas was ruined because you and your wife got the flu. We thought we'd do this.
The shittest things about Christmas.
What's number one on your shittest things about Christmas list? Give it to me, Horace.
Do you know, I've thought long and hard about Christmas and what it means to me these days and what it used to mean to me as a child.
Mm.
And number one on my Christmas list of things that I don't like is the lack of the radio and TV times. Now, when I was a small boy, at Christmas, that was the only time my parents would buy the radio times and the TV times. Now, I assume that our listeners will remember what that is. And you know, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It was kind of a UK tradition, wasn't it? You had the radio times and the TV times, because the radio times only had all the BBC programmes and the radio in it. And this is back when there was only four. Was there four? Yeah, 4 TV channels there. And even Channel 5 wasn't out when we had those come out. And the TV times was ITV. Now, the radio times always had that slight air of class about it, didn't it? The radio. It had a nice, lovely Christmas scene as a front cover, usually a sort of rotund Father Christmas wrapped up in...
And the TV guide was like a thin shit pamphlet by comparison.
and the TV times would have 3 people from Coronation Street in Father Christmas hats. That's all it would have on the front of it. It would never, ever have the same effort that it used to go into. Now, the radio times for me was a huge part of Christmas, because I used to be able to go through and find all of the little radio programmes and the serials that were on over Christmas, because it would show you the whole of the radio. We're doing it over Christmas. And I love listening to the radio.
Well, you were the biggest telly addict I've ever known, so that must have been heaven for you then.
And highlighting everything with a pen in the TV times and the radio times was absolutely fantastic. And that's gone now, because now you can just press a button and everything records itself on the telly.
Yeah. Have they gone then, those mags? Do they not exist anymore?
Well, who the fucking hell buys them anymore? I mean, really? It's like jazz mags. A friend of mine lives under a newsagent, and they've got hundreds and hundreds of jazz mags in that new... Probably won't be able to use this segment, but I don't give a rat's. So there's loads of jazz mags in there. Who buys jazz mags anymore?
Yeah, I see your point, yeah.
There's the internet.
You don't get moving images in a jazz mag in Rustler, do you?
You never see a jazz mag in a hedge like you used to when you were younger.
the golden find. Go on your BMX on a Sunday on a dirt track with your mates, pull over and there's a jazz mag in the hedge.
Because some decorator would throw it out of his van, wouldn't he? Because he wasn't allowed to go home with it. That's why they always... I always used to wonder how they used to end up in hedges. Because you think, who on earth would throw a jazz mag in a hedge? But it would be somebody else I know.
Well, because someone slipped into a hedge for a danger wank and they got rumbled, mate.
Somebody I know calls them bongo mags, which always makes me laugh as well. Oh dear. Anyway, I've veered off of the radio times was a beacon for Christmas. It was like a shining thing and when it went missing in the lounge, and it was always down an armchair or down the sofa, and you had to find it, was absolutely brilliant. Oh, pardon. And that's part of Christmas that's gone. Oh dear. That was Naga pickled flavour. I've got some of this. I've got some baldac spicy chicken sauce that I've had some of that today. That's another thing. That's for
I
another
just want
day.
to interrupt, just for the listeners to know. We know what Horace's diet is like. We've mentioned it on the previous 8 episodes. While we've been recording this podcast today, in between sections of recording, he's been eating crisps and biscuits and hoeing into the 7-Up, and now he's got some hot sauce as well.
I've been having a great time. I've also got some after 8, and it's not 8 o'clock yet. It's nowhere near. So bollocks.
Oh my God!
It is 2025 though, and that's 20 past 8, isn't it?
The rich egg in your house by the end of this week, the walls are going to turn orange, mate.
Yeah, they'll need a scrape. It's the only house where you have to scrape the inside, not the outside. So the lack of a Radio Times is one of my shit things about Christmas. I used to like the Radio Times. It had a certain gravitas about it, and I mean, yeah, I'm not going to buy that anymore. Who gives a rat's ass?
Brilliant. What's number 2?
Number 2, right? Parsnips. Now, we went for a Christmas dinner this year, and it was a all right affair, but it was the parsnip to dinner ratio was fucked. There was about
fucked, mate.
There was about 9 big parsnips on our plate for our Christmas dinner, which was in a restaurant, which I think I may have mentioned earlier, but the parsnip to potato ratio was all wrong. And also, the roast potatoes weren't roasted. They were just cut into barrel shapes and put in the oven. They weren't roasted. They were just dry roasted, effectively, in the oven.
Bastards.
I know, isn't it awful? And parsnips have a funny taste. Some people really like them, and other people don't like them. But ours were literally the whole length of a parsnip, pretty much, which is quite long, times I had about 9 on my plate. So a good 30% of my dinner was parsnips.
So you had a parsnip roast. That was the biggest thing on the plate.
Pretty much. I'm not a big fan of parsnips, I have to say.
I would have thrown it at the manager, I think.
You like parsnips?
Not really. Bit weird, aren't they?
Okay. Well, that aside, Christmas sandwiches this year also went down the shitter because they were nowhere near as good as they are normally. I normally go round, I treat myself to one of each of the Christmas sandwiches from all of the shops. But you can't really do that anymore.
Oh, you mean shop-bought ones? I thought you meant you were going to make your own out of Christmas leftovers.
No. Shop-bought Christmas sangers. Because the one that came top for me last year was the Lidl turkey wrap, but they didn't have it They didn't have that this year for some reason.
The one that came top last year was the Marks and Spencer's chicken one, the one that your mate Barry left on that pile after he'd come out the toilet at the festival when he went and left his sandwich there.
You're right, actually. But that wasn't a Christmas sandwich. That was just a regular sandwich, and that was a Marks and Spencer's chicken katsu coleslaw sandwich.
That's it.
That was the one that Barry left on the top of the pile of stuff, and well, he left it all over a fan. The Christmas sandwiches were not good this year. One of them had brie in it. Now, what's Christmas about that?
Also, what's the point in brie?
Right.
It's vile.
Yes, it is. You don't put brie in a Christmas sandwich. That's definitely not right. But there was too many sandwiches this year. The market's now flooded with them. Even Waitrose has got like 5 different ones, and they've split the pigs in blankets sandwich and the regular turkey sandwich up. So there's just a pigs under blankets one now, and I don't think they can call it pigs in blankets. It's pigs under blankets.
Why don't they just luz all that in one sandwich? That'd be ultimate, wouldn't it?
One big daddy of a sandwich, and then they might have stood themselves a chance. So I didn't do much research this year about that.
So that I'm glad that's where your mind was going as well. Why don't they put the turkey and the pigs in blankets all in one great doorstep sandwich?
That's the point. It's a Christmas dinner. And when we had some leftover Christmas dinner last year, I blended it in the blender into a soup. And mate, you've never had anything like it. You get old leftover Christmas dinner, blend it up into a soup. It's absolutely gorgeous with a stock cube and a load of water. Oh, mate, Christmas soup.
So it's like whizzed up sort of bubble and squeak.
Whizzed up dinner, yeah. Whizzed up turkey, the lot. Yeah, you get a taste of a Christmas dinner. No one does that. Anyway.
Fair play. What's number 3?
Last one, I'm gonna Quality Street.
Go on.
Now, what the fuck has happened there with Quality Street? That's absolutely outrageous what they've done. In the old days, when I was younger, when you were younger, I remember getting the Quality Street at Christmas. You only needed 1 tin. You didn't need 5 like we have to buy now because the tin is basically like a disc, not a tin.
They're like a frisbee. They used to be like a massive cauldron back in the day.
Yeah, that's right. You could stir your hand around in them, and they would last you the whole of the Christmas period, and there'd be some left over, and you'd have to eat. Oh, and they've taken the foil off of them as well because it's environmentally unfriendly, right? So they say, and they've replaced the foil with this dull, single-coloured stuff. If you're into them,
it's all a bit cheap and shit now, isn't it?
All a bit cheap. It is all very cheap and shit. You know the film Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
You know how when he opens the suitcase and you never see what's in the suitcase. And it shines gold.
Oh,
all
it
over
shines
his face.
gold. Do you reckon it's a tin of Quality Streets?
It's an old tin of Quality Street. It's not a new tin because that wouldn't do it anymore. But in the old days, when you used to open the Quality Street lid, the shine in the tin was absolutely unbelievable. You'd literally get a face. You'd tan your face looking into that tin.
Maybe that's how they got that special effects. Quentin Tarantino got his research assistant to go and get an old tin of full up with Quality Street so to get that gold glow. That's brilliant.
That used to be the highlight of my Christmas, that did.
Do you know what, though? I have fucking boycotted motherfucking Quality Streets, mate. Do you know why? The bastards, the cheap fuckers, they removed the peanut cracknel. I'm not having it. The peanut cracknel, do you remember that?
Do you know what?
It was a little pink torpedo. It was absolutely amazing.
I do remember the cracknel. The cracknel was the one that was like eating a roof tile with chocolate round it. It went half hard to eat, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, but it was delicious.
I do remember the cracknel, and it has gone. You're right. And I think it used to be red. I think the cracknel was red, you know.
Pinky red, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. There's loads of them that have gradually sneaked off, though.
I wonder why that is. I want to know. Some listener's got to come in and chime in and tell me and Roger the Horse why that bloody peanut cracknel disappeared. I've never seen anything like it. Yeah. I've never eaten anything like it ever since, and it was amazing. I'm really annoyed.
I agree with you. And also the green triangle, which...
The noisette,
exactly it is still in foil. Now, why is that one still in foil? Yes, always. That's never, ever been not put in foil.
I think you're right, you know.
If you look in a tin of Quality Streets, I unfortunately don't have one to hand because I've eaten all of them.
But it is, like you say, a frisbee, so it's not exactly hard now, is it?
They are still, you know, you can't help it, can you? But I did go into... Every year when I see the pallets and pallets and pallets of them in Tesco's, I always take a photograph and post it and say, right, well, Christmas is officially here because the Quality Streets are out in the supermarket. I think this year that photograph went up on my page in June or July.
Oh, yeah.
Now, where have they all gone? Because they moan about the foil, but you know, and they moan about recycling and materials and plastic. All those tins in the old days used to be made of tin. They were a tin, which is why it was called a tin, because it was made of fucking tin. It wasn't made of cheese, was it? So now they're all made of plastic, right? They're all made of plastic. Now there was hundreds of them left in Tesco's when Christmas was finished. And I went down there yesterday because I actually managed to prise the boards off the back of the door and get out the house. Went down there yesterday and there's none in any supermarkets.
They went to the CEO's garage. He's a blubber starch and he looks like the size of a caravan.
Blubbers. He's going to have a bloody big blubber. He's going to have a bloody big garage to get all that lot in. But where have they all gone? There must be a warehouse somewhere with them all in.
Yeah, I've got to chime in about tins of chocolates, mate. Whenever I used to go to my grandparents, which wasn't very often because they didn't live very close to us, I lived quite far away, they always used to have a tin of something. I'd open the tin, fucking sewing kit. It's just the worst, isn't it? the boast, the lure, and it's a pissing sewing kit. Or it's got bric-a-brac and buttons and things in it. Oh, it's the bloody worst.
Christmas telly. That's normally absolute hogwash. And this year, well, I say that, of course, this year, there was a lot of Bond films on. And I feel it's never really a proper Christmas unless you've seen that prick actor that plays Nick Nack, or did, I think he's dead. That you know the man with the golden gun?
Nick Nack. Bloody Nick Nack. He talks all like that, does he? Bloody
Nick Nack. That's his name. I think his name's Hervey or something.
What a Still not.
Roger Moore. He puts him in a suitcase at the end, doesn't he, on the boat?
Yeah.
He gets a great big suitcase and shuts him in it and throws him off the back of the boat into another boat, which is absolutely hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not. He's definitely a shit thing about Christmas. That little twat.
Knick-knack. What a dill-knot.
Oh, who the hell's that?
Oh, what the hell? I better get that, mate. Hello?
I've got a few bits and pieces for you, man.
It's Bobby Dazzler. Hello, mate. I can't really talk at the minute because I'm recording an episode of the pod with Roger the Horace. Can I call you back?
I'll call you back when you're in a better mood, man.
Oh dear.
He's hung up. Yeah, but how's he going to know when I'm in a better mood? Anyway, whatever number this is, I think the thing I hate the most about Christmas, though, is rancidly naff Christmas songs. Do you know what I mean? Remember those really naff Christmas songs? But there was one that springs to mind. I used to wind my sister up so bad with this. It's hilarious. Do you ever remember that Cliff Richard tune, Mistletoe and Wine? Do you remember that?
Oh, yes.
It was so bad. I think it got to number one. The video was like a 10p sort of camcorder job of just walking around the lounge of people sitting in front of a fire. And the lyrics were so bad. As it used to go, Christmas time, mistletoe and wine, children singing Christian rhyme. And then I'd change it and go, with gifts on the fire, logs on the tree. Every time the chorus came round, I'd do that and stop it round. And my sister would go, oh, Jamie, and get really annoyed. We'd have a massive scrap and do our parents' heads in. It was hilarious. There's the only way I could get through it, mate. I can't stand those songs.
I do love a bit of Cliff, I have to say, but that is one of his worst moments. Cliff's done some seriously good stuff, but there's a version of that song that somebody else did on the TV, which was the lyrics were Christmas time, mistletoe and wine, children swimming in pits filled with brine, which I thought was absolutely brilliant.
How random.
I think that was Vic Reeves, but that's very funny.
That does sound very irrelevant, Vic and Bob.
That does move very nicely into a program that I saw on Christmas Day on the TV, which had me in absolute fits. I was literally, and it was the top 10. It was party songs and then it was Christmas songs. So do you want to have a guess at what the most popular Christmas song of all time is? As that's in record sales and streaming now, and it's not what you think because it's changed.
It's got to be Last Christmas by Wham.
That's number 2.
Oh, I wasn't far wrong though. Go on.
No, you were right there, and that's number 2. Do you want to? I'll do you the top 10 right backwards. So you got top 10, number 10. This is sales, streams, everything up to the present day.
Brilliant.
Number 10 is I Wish It Could Be Christmas Every Day by Wizzard. Now, we both know somebody that looks like the singer from Wizzard.
We do.
We'll leave that there. Anyway, Roy Wood was the lead singer of Wizzard, and he used to be in the Electric Light Orchestra. And before that, he was in The Move.
I didn't know he was in ELO. What did he do in ELO?
Oh, I don't know. He did something. He was in ELO at the beginning, definitely, before he left. And then Jeff Lynne, I've got a thing about Jeff Lynne because I like ELO, but Jeff Lynne, every time he does an interview, everything's brilliant. Just everything's brilliant all the time. Yeah, it's brilliant, yeah. Because he's from Birmingham. Yeah. And it's just like, oh, you're having a resurgence of your career. Oh, yeah, it's great. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, I've had a great time. Yeah, it's brilliant. We're having a great, yeah. Oh, I've just been over there near the window. It was absolutely brilliant. Mr. Blue Sky is an absolute banger of a tune. Love that tune.
What's number 9?
Number 9 is Elton John's Christmas EP. Which basically is Step Into Christmas, if you're familiar with Elton John's Christmas tune. Step Into Christmas. Know that one? Step into Christmas, step into Christmas. That's it, anyway.
Obviously, because your rendition is lyrically absolutely perfect there with it.
Sorry.
So I knew exactly which one it was. What's number 8?
Number 8, believe it or not, is Santa Tell Me by Ariana Grande. Ariana Grande is such a big artist, and yet people like us probably couldn't even name hardly any of her tunes, but she gets absolutely everywhere. Her song is now the 8th biggest seller.
Wow.
Or biggest stream, biggest everything altogether. 7 is Do They Know It's Christmas by Band Aid.
Mate, do you know what? It's a banger.
It is a banger.
Phil Collins drums. Mate, Phil Collins on the drums. I saw a YouTube video of the making of that, and he did it all in one take. He did one version with everyone watching him. You can see it on YouTube. And then he did a second version, which was slightly different, but he did that in one take as well. Apparently, mossed it to the click, whatever, blaffed it, and everyone said it was obsessed. And the groove he plays on it is awesome on the YouTube video. You can't quite hear it on the final song, mate. Collins on the drums. He was a real drummer, that guy.
You're 100% right. And there's a documentary on YouTube, which you should 100% check out. And I think it's called Drummer First, with his son. And he goes through, because he looks like he's about a car kit in the documentary.
Yeah.
And he's going through all of his songs with his son and the Genesis albums and going through why this is this and everything else. And he talks about it. Because they're saying that his posture, the way he used to play the drums, has been the main factor to him, to the fact that his back is now basically, well, it's fucked, isn't it?
Well, the thing is, people only really aware of his solo career, but if you listen to his drums on some of the early Genesis record, they're outstanding.
Yeah, he's a great drummer. It's a really good doc too. It's on YouTube. It's free. Phil Collins, Drummer First. Number 6 is It's Beginning to Look a Lot Like Christmas by Michael Bublé.
Oh, God, yeah, you hear that everywhere.
That Canadian chap, I mean, he's all right. Number 5, let's get to the end of this. This is Rocking Around the Christmas Tree by Brenda Lee. The original of Rocking Around the Christmas Tree, which is
that's
a great
quite
song.
a sweet tune, to be fair.
Number 4, Merry Christmas Everyone by everyone's favourite bloke that looks like he's got Parkinson's, but he hasn't, Shakin' Stevens.
Shakin' Stevens, because he's got Parkinson's. I just realised what you meant.
Number 3 is The Fairy Tale of New York by the Pogues, featuring Kirsty MacColl. You know what happened to her? She tried to bump start a speedboat. And it's not the old version, it's the version without all the rude words in it, whatever. Number 2 is your favourite, Last Christmas by Wham.
It's not my favourite, it's just the one that the answer to your question. Can't bloody bear it.
In that video where he's I love George. He was a brilliant singer, great vocalist.
He was.
On YouTube, there's some video of him rehearsing with Queen when he's doing Somebody to Love.
Seen it.
And
it's obsessed.
I'll fin it. Yeah, well, it is obsessed, and he's great in that. But in that video for Last Christmas, when they go up the mountain and they're sodding about in that ski lift and everything else, and then they have that dinner where they're all sitting around, don't they? And one of the women's obviously into him and giving him a filthy look and everything else. And imagine if that had been blokes, not been women, because he was a fool to himself, wasn't he? There's no way he was interested in somebody's girlfriend. He'd be far more interested in somebody's boyfriend, mate.
Well, maybe the record label knew he was gay, but they were just having none of it, because it was back in the 80s then, bless him, and it was like they would sell loads more records if they kept that under wraps.
That's exactly it. They didn't want that getting out, did they? Because they didn't want to ruin the record sales. And Arse Christmas isn't as good, is it?
Arse Christmas. You bellend.
Sorry.
That's hilarious. Go on, put me out on misery. What is number 1, for God's sake?
Number 1, the most streamed and purchased song of all time is All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey, who waved at me once.
Mariah Carey. Hang on a minute. All I Want for Christmas. Right, yeah, I do know that one.
All I want for Christmas is you.
It's not the most sort of Christmassy tune, though, is it?
No, it's not. But she's got a big old fan base, hasn't she? She's overtaken the others.
Wow.
So there we go with the streaming now added on. And she waved at me once.
What do you mean? When did that happen?
I was at an in-store in HMV in Oxford Street. I was doing something with a band of an in-store, and then she was next. She was doing her in-store that afternoon, and she arrived with her entourage while we were still clearing up ours. And she went across the back of HMV. There was a great big crowd outside to see her. This was before she was huge. She was like, she was a star then, but she wasn't enormous. And she walked across the back of the thing in a great big fur coat and sunglasses. And as she was walking across, I waved at her and she looked directly at me. No one else waved, and she waved at me.
That's cool.
People are going to say, oh, you just got caught in the wave, and you pretend. No. She waved solely at me because I waved at her. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere near her.
Fair play. Diva Horace met the OG diva.
No, I didn't. I don't think I really met her, did I? I waved at her from a distance. I mean, that's kind of, you could do that pretty much with anyone. But she did wave to me. She did wave back.
Wow.
So how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm really good, thanks, Horace. Yeah. Had a pretty lazy Christmas. I stumbled across an amazing YouTube video, purely by accident, of Les Dawson on a cooking show. And he said this woman was asking him a question as he was preparing a tomato. And she went, mentioned something about Hastings. And he went, I went to Hastings once, but time's a healer. Which is probably the funniest thing I've seen all over the Christmas period was that little bit of Les Dawson. So that made my Christmas, really. I'm really good, thanks, mate. Yeah, life's good, really. I'm really happy chappy. But I should probably mention the fact, I think the reason I'm proper super chuffed is because my selfish bastard of a boiler finally got fixed. You know, I had a leak in my roof.
I had
a leak in, not my roof, in my ceiling.
Well, the boiler was leaking through the floor, wasn't it? Yeah.
It basically left this big damp patch on the ceiling underneath the boiler, and it was dripping all over the place. And I had to bucket out, that sort of scenario. And so I phoned my local plumbers. They've been out about 3 times fixing all the other stuff that had exploded on the boiler. You know what it's like with the boiler? Something goes wrong, they fix it. 2 days later, something else happens.
Yep.
It was a bit like that. But it's all fine now. It's absolutely perfect. And it turns out it was just a cracked condenser pipe that was slightly underneath the floorboards that they couldn't see. And it was just, it had cracked off at the bottom where the U-bend is. And it cost me literally about 80 pence just to get a new plastic U-bend and fit it on. And they fitted it on for me. No more leak. And the boiler's all good. So I'm really, really happy.
Amazing.
But, because these 2 guys that came round, these 2 guys from the boiler company were quite funny. One of them was sort of a rotund, grumpy, bald man in his 70s, this mature lad, who was obviously in charge of the younger chap that he brought round. And it was really hilarious how they were talking to each other. And it went something like this. Hey, Ron, I've got the condenser extraction unit in. It's just not sucking out the water from that U-bend. Have you got any idea what the problem might be?
Have you checked the filter?
Yeah, the filter looks good. It's in. But, yeah, it's definitely in. It's still not extracting the water, though. Have you got any idea?
Check the filter.
Yep, I've just checked the filter, Ron. What else should I do?
Check the filter.
Yeah, I've just checked the filter, Ron. What else could it be?
Check the filter.
I've just checked it! I've just checked the filter!
Check the filter.
No! Well, after that hilarious interlude, I suppose I should talk about the people that have messaged in, Horace. Actually, one of my neighbours asked me while I was at my car the other day. He's been listening to the podcast and he thought it was hilarious. And he said, why do I keep calling you a dill knot? And what does dill knot mean, right? And I don't even know if you know what a dill knot is and whether I should explain it to the listeners, so I'm going to. So basically...
I'll just say, I don't know what a dill knot is.
Okay.
For those people that think that, in case anyone thought that I knew what a dill knot was, I'm unaware of what a dill knot is. So,
well, I'm wondering whether you might remember this story once I start explaining it, because it actually originated from our touring days in Landmine Spring, and I was sitting in the back of the car, and Thick Mop and Pretenders was sitting to my right, old Nev, bless him, and we were having a chat. And I called him a dill knot, and he started laughing his head off. And he said, what do you mean dill knot? I've never heard that expression before. What do you mean? And I explained to him. And at the time, back in the day, I used to come home from work from my crappy office job, and I used to turn on ITV, and there was a news programme on ITV, and I can't remember which one it was. And the presenter was a guy called Giles Dillknot, right? That was his name. But Giles Dillknot was hilarious. And I shit you not, for literally a whole season, I think it was like the whole spring and summer season, it was him, Giles Dillknot. And I think it was recorded, it went out live. And every single time Giles Dillknot read that news, he fucked up. He made a blooper and he made a mistake. Until one time he made such a bad blooper that live on telly, you know, like a newsreaders, they've got a lot of paper on their desk.
Yeah.
But they don't normally pick it up and shuffle it about, do they?
Yeah.
It's just there for like their reference. He made such a bad blooper, which I can't remember what he said. He buggered it. he didn't read the auto cue properly, and he picked up his paper and like smacked him on the desk really eggily, and he went, "Oh, for God's sake, get a grip, Dilnot," like this, like he was slagging himself off. And ever since then, I've just started calling people Dilnot. And the funny thing is, after he did that, "Oh, get a grip, Dilnot," and throwing his papers all around, I never saw him present that news programme again. I think he got fired after that. But bless him, that was really hilarious. And since then, he's actually made a career for himself as a political analyst, I think he is, for the BBC. He's like actually a bit of a high-up dude now, but back in the day, he was a massive Dilnot, mate, and he still is.
So I just looked him up on the computer.
Right.
And in November 2000, you're quite right, he was a news presenter for BBC South East Today.
BBC South East Today, that was it. That was the one.
Yeah. Now, it says here that an effigy of him was burned at the Lewis bonfire celebrations in 2004.
Just down the road from me.
Yeah.
I can totally believe it. They blow up all the effigies there.
This is not rehearsed. I've just literally looked this up now and come up with it. And it says that BBC South East Today, who he was presenting on, had angered some members of the Sussex Bonfire Society by its reporting of an allegedly racist display at the nearby Firle bonfire night in 2003, where an effigy of a gypsy family in a caravan was burned.
What, and Joel still not reported it, so he made everyone eggy?
So they burned an effigy of him next year.
They burnt the Dilnot. Brilliant. The Dilnot went up in smoke and went bang.
Yeah, he got burned on a bonfire. Absolutely brilliant.
That's brilliant. I'm going to carry on calling people Dilnots after that. Thanks, Horace. That's amazing. So the other person that messaged us in recently was my old mate Dan, who made a point when he said that we've spoken quite a lot about our touring memories, but we haven't actually come up with a concise list of our funniest memories of our touring years.
Oh, God.
So I thought we'd crack on because he was interested to hear that. One of my favourite memories, I'll never forget. Now, this was on Landmine Springs' last ever gig at Mr. Smith's in Bournemouth, where we did the sound check to Gilligan's Gold from Are We the Culprits? And Troff was quite impressed with that. But the bit that was really funny for me was when we walked in, we'd sound checked, we were just about to go on, there's a big crowd there and a big circle in the middle of the room. Roger the Horace walks in, gets some deodorant out of his satchel, walks straight into the middle of the room, takes his T-shirt off, and then you took the lid off this and it was a mum roll-on. The only thing, you probably nicked it off your mum's shelf or something in the bathroom, and you started putting this mum roll-on all under your armpits. Then you put your T-shirt back on and jumped on the stage. But unbeknownst to you, everyone was falling about laughing because you used mum roll-on, and it was really rock and roll.
I genuinely do not remember that. I remember there being you talking about a mum roll-on incident, which obviously is that. But I don't remember taking my shirt off in front of a crowd of people. But who knows?
I think you did, because I think it was part of a tour. And we were just really boffed out. And there was something about a T-shirt coming off, and you definitely put mum roll-on.
I've no doubt that you're right. You would have remembered it more accurately than I would have done. I remember the Mr. Smith's gig. It's
debatable, though, whether that's funnier than my next story, which I'll never forget. Now, this was on a Matador in the early days when we did it in a van. And we were up somewhere north, and I can't remember for the life of me where it was or what venue it was. But I'll never forget this, because back in the day, I'm sure you will attest to the fact that my drum parts were quite technical and really busy, weren't they, when I was in Matter?
Yeah, you were like an octopus.
Well, hence my nickname Octopus Boy, I guess.
Yeah.
And back in those days, I used to do the backing vocals, like the backing harsh, didn't I? And I had a swing boom mic that I used to use, but it was quite complicated. And if you're drumming like I used to and screaming at the same time, you tend to run out of air quite quickly. And in this particular venue 20 years ago, gone are the days of health and safety, it was like a sauna in there. All the windows were shut because it was near a residential area. There was no air in there. Everyone was smoking. It was like, mate, it was grim. It was like breathing tar, Yeah. And I can't remember which song it was. It might have been Arsonist or something. Really, really busy song of the drums. And I did this bit of harsh, mate. Fainted on the kit because I ran out of air. Fell backwards off my stool. rolled backwards, smashed through the fire exit, and landed up in a heap on the pavement outside the venue. I came to, still holding my drumsticks, went back in and finished the song. What a lemon. What a dildo.
Amazing. Absolutely brilliant.
I think my third favourite was when we went on tour with the mighty Johnny Truant. And I always got along really well with Ollie, the vocalist, who I've mentioned before on this pod. And I hope he's listening to this, because this is one of my favourite memories of Ollie, because he was really funny when he was in the mood. And I'm not going to say who, but there was this particular girl that used to follow Matter around. She was like a bit of a groupie, I guess, back in the day. But she was quite funny in the way she used to mispronounce things. And she used to mispronounce names of bands sometimes. And I don't know if you remember, there was a band called Mahumodo. Do you remember them?
Yeah, I remember them.
They were really good, mate. And she kept following us around because she took a shine to me. And she found me again. I could never get rid of her. She came up to me at the Camden Underworld when we were playing there on this particular tour. And she said, "Oh, I'm really excited tonight, James, because the opening band is Manhood Mondon." And I was like, I beg your pardon? Who?
Manhood Mondon.
Manhood Mondon, she'd say. And Ollie was standing next to me. And we were having a chat to this girl, and she kept saying, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a brilliant night because Manhood Mondon are playing. And me and Ollie were having these sideways glances at each other. Anyway, we just got on with it, and then she walked off, and me and Ollie were wetting ourselves. Later on in the set, Johnny Truant played their last song. Don't know which song it was. Last song. And Ollie went, "This one goes out to James, the drummer of Matter." And in the chorus, he just sang, "Manhood Mondon! Manhood Mondon!" He just Manhood Mondoned it up all night on the stage for the last song. It was absolutely amazing. In tribute to the groupie that mispronounced everything. It was amazing.
I thought you were going to say that he said this one goes out to Manhood Mondon when they were on stage to wind them up. That's brilliant.
No.
I remember them. They were good. They were a good band.
They're really good, yeah.
Yeah, or Manhood Mondon, as I'm going to call them now for the rest of my days. They were good. They had a good wall of sound thing going on, didn't they? They were like they did a lot of instrumental. They
had some greasy riffs as well, and I'll tell you why why they had a greasy riff. When I used to live in a flat with Leandra and Tris from Hiding with Girls, I'll never forget, we used to enjoy the old Fatty Boom Batties. And one night we had a couple of Fatty Boom Batties one night, hanging out on the couch, watching a bit of Kerrang TV or whatever. And Leandra was a bit caned, and we were watching some Kerrang TV. And then we were talking about comedy, and he said, "Oh yeah, I really like that Grease Riff Jones." He was preferring to Griff Rhys Jones. But he sort of slipped it up because he's really stoned, and he said Grease Riff Jones. And then me and Tris jumped on that straight away. So any band after that came out with a cool riff, we were like, "Oh mate, they're a Grease Riff Jones. That's a greasy riff, that is, mate." And Leander would be in the corner rolling his eyes. It was quite funny. I know this isn't a touring story, but one of my funniest things about you, you walk into the room and I start laughing. But one of the funniest things you ever did was when you told me once that you were driving down from Berkshire to go back to the Brighton area where your family lived to go and visit your brother, go and visit my brother. And my brother has got a family. And how many kids has he got? 3?
Yeah.
He's got 3 kids, hasn't he? And you kept dicking him around about what time you were fetching up, and he lost his rag of you, and he was going, "Look, for God's sake, I'm trying to cook a nice roast dinner here," or whatever he was doing. "I've got a family and kids. I can't keep having you mucking us around at dinner time." And apparently your retort, which you thought was completely reasonable in retort to him, was, "Well, it's not my fault you got kids."
Well, he listens to this, so he'll absolutely love that. Shout out to Chris and my 2 nephews, my eldest nephews, Alex and Josh, and little Toby. He'll have a great time.
Yeah, brilliant. I haven't seen Chris for years. Shout out to Chris. I hope he's well. Right, so Horace, I think I'm done. I think that's probably my very most favourite hilarious touring stories. The only other one I'd put on the list is that one where the Charger guitarist projectile vomited down the coach that I talked about in episode 4 because of Crimmy's Rancid T-shirt, the singer from Meanus. But what are your most hilarious touring memories?
Well, it's funny you mentioning you falling off the back of the stage, because there was 2 occurrences when Bobby Dazzler fell off the back of a stage. The first one being when we played a show at the Crown in Worcester with Decimate, who were on Blackfish, Ian Glasper's label, I think, if I remember rightly. And the stage was made up of those big bricks, big wooden blocks that you used to have in old schools. You know those when you used to have an old assembly or in an old school and there was no stage, they'd have like about 6 of these big wooden hollow block things they dragged to make a stage.
I know what you mean.
That's the one. The stage was made out of that in the Crown. And as we were playing the set, because it was about 1,000,000 degrees in there and it was like playing in an oven, like a lot of those shows used to be, because like you say, they weren't allowed to open the windows. So the whole place would be absolutely dripping after about 2 songs. Bobby Dazzler's drum stool worked its way across the stage as he was playing, and the stage wasn't sitting flush to the wall. Behind the stage was one of those big old ceramic cast iron radiators like you used to get in old schools.
Right.
So consequently, there was just enough space between the radiator and the stage for 2 of the drum stool legs to go down. So as you can imagine, his drum stool legs went down the back of the stage, and he went sideways, fell off the stool, and was rolling around on the floor. And I didn't realise not on the floor, on the stage. He was rolling around on the stage.
Yeah.
I didn't realise what had happened for a long time. Well, for a good portion of time, I thought he had a stick problem or something, because I very rarely used to look behind me when I was in the band, because I'd be busy punching somebody or like kicking somebody's nose. Or
it doesn't look very professional if you look round when the drummer fucks up, does it?
No. But he was not playing for quite a long time, like a good portion of the song. So in the end, I did look round, and he was rolling around on the stage because his drum stool had gone off the back of the thing. And then there's another story that I remember while I'm thinking about it, which was we were standing on the stage at the Astoria, and there used to be a band called Sugar Ray. Do you remember Sugar Ray?
I do, but who's we? We were standing on a...
Me and Darren again.
Right.
We were standing on a stage at the Astoria, and we were watching Zebrahead. And the support band, Zebrahead as they call themselves everywhere else, was Sugar Ray. And Sugar Ray got big for a little bit in the UK. They did a show in the Water Rats with about 100 people all squashed into a pub, which I went to see that too. And they were good, Sugar Ray. Anyway, they supported Zebrahead on at the Astoria. And there was a staircase down the back of the Astoria stage that used to lead down to the loadout. And I remember, and do you know what? I can't remember for the life of me if it was me or him, and I'll have to get his authority on this. One of us stepped back into that staircase and went straight down the stairs and ended up in a great pile at the bottom, which was hilarious. And I genuinely can't remember if it was me or him. I think it was him.
Brilliant. So, it's that time again where I discuss an album that's impressed me this month. And the album I'd like to bring to the table this time around is an intriguing piece of art by Chelsea Wolfe and her latest opus, She Reaches Out To, She Reaches Out To She. Now, believe it or not, listener, that is the title and not our podcast skipping weirdly. It's really quite something, this record. It's lyrically awesome. The songs are all growers that really get under your skin. The production's fantastic, and it reminds me of a sort of a darker, brooding, heavier Björk. Definitely worth checking out anyway. So I sent a copy of this to you earlier this week, didn't I, Horace, for you to sample. This sort of brooding stuff is usually right up your street, so I'm intrigued to know what you made of it. So without further ado, it's now time for...
Roger the Horace's album review.
So all that's left to say, really, Horace, is what did you make of it?
That album is the oral equivalent of Knick Knack's Knick Knack.
You've been listening to Backstage Pass with myself, James Maverick, and Rob Newson, a.k.a. Roger the Horace. If you want to get in touch with us lemons or ask us a question to discuss on the show, please get in touch via Instagram by using our handle, which is @BSPpod, or by sending us a direct email to bsppod@protonmail.com. This podcast is brought to you by Maverick Audio and produced by me. If you'd like your podcast or any other production produced, then visit my website at www.maverickaudio.co.uk and message me via the contact form. Please leave us a review, share our Cretinous pod, and remember to like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening. Until the next time.
Did you know that my grandfather always thought that when a film had PG on it, it meant pretty good?